wanted to talk to you briefly about the difference between a Tinder bundle and a bird's nest. A lot of times those terms are used interchangeably, but there are subtle differences between the two. Basically, a bird's nest is a Tinder bundle that's been further processed to create finer fibers, which you can then capture coal or ember, maybe created from a bow drill set or from a flint and steel set, and actually blow oxygen into that to create flame. Whereas a Tinder bundle is something that might be a little less processed, and you would use an open flame source or possibly like a ferrocerium rod to ignite that and then start your fire. So the bird's nest is just a little bit further processed. So I wanted to demonstrate for you today first creating a Tinder bundle and then using that Tinder bundle to further process and create a bird's nest. So stick with me and I'll show you that step. Alright, what I have here is a big ball of tulip poplar bark. Tulip poplar bark is one option that you can use to create a Tinder bundle. There's a lot of other things that you can use as well. Anything that's that you can break down and process down into fine fibers, such as cedar bark is an excellent one. You can use, it could be pine straw. There's different types of things that you can use to process down, but one that's very prevalent in my area is tulip poplar bark, so it tends to be what I use most of the time, or if I can get cedar bark, those tend to be the things that I use personally most. So that's what I'm going to use for the demonstration. But basically, when you strip that tulip poplar bark off, it comes off in long strips like this, and it has the inner bark and the outer bark. And the outer bark is useless as far as a Tinder bundle or bird's nest. So what we got to do is process it down to get to the inner fibers. So I'm going to use this right here and show you that process. And I have demonstrated this before on a video which is specifically about finding and using tulip poplar bark, but just wanted to be a little more clear about the process today. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just taking that bark and working it in my hand. Just kind of back and forth. And the more I do that, the more dust I'm creating here. I don't know if you can see that on camera. But the more it's exposing those fine inner fibers, the more that stuff is processing down. This stuff is pretty dry, honestly. I've had it in a bag, which I collected last time I was out in the woods. I try to bring that home with me each time, so I have it for fire starting and practice for bow drill and things like that when I'm working at home. This is just my backyard fire pit that you're seeing here. But what I'll do is I'll fuzz this stuff up basically, and then I'll kind of just pull it apart, break it up a little bit, and then fuzz it again, just like that. All right, and probably what I've got right now would be a very acceptable Tinder bundle, okay? I'm gonna bring this into you a little bit closer so you can see. All right, there are some finer fibers, but this is a fairly loose Tinder bundle, okay? And the looser it is, obviously, the faster it's gonna burn, and the finer the fibers are, the faster it's gonna burn. So with the bird's nest, we don't want to leave it like this. We want to process it down a little bit further so that we have a very solid bed to lay our coal on. See, if I were to put an ember or coal in this right now, it might fall straight through, and then I would be back at square one. But if I were going to use a big lighter, let's say, and light this would go up perfectly, and this more coarse material here will just burn longer, therefore giving me more time to get my fire established. Right? So this would be a good example of a Tinder bundle. And I'll demonstrate for you igniting that. And we'll just use a standard ferrocerium rod. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to use part of it. There's no need in wasting it. And there we go. So with a ferro rod or a big lighter, it's very easy to ignite that Tinder bundle. Alright, now let's have this Tinder bundle, what's left of it. Here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to process down another another bit of this bark so we can add that together with what we had left over. Sorry if you guys notice, I like to conserve this stuff. And I just like to put this stuff between my hands and just spiral. That seems to be the fastest way to break away that outer bark. And that's not, of course, the only way to do it. It's just my personal favorite way. Get it started, get the process started. You could just roll it in your hands like this. And really right now, I could probably stop if I were going to use the ferro rod, and I could probably ignite this with the ferro rod. Right? So I'm going to keep that like it is. So that's going to be stage 1 for my bird nest. Okay? That's going to be the bottom. Now we have this dry, fine stuff that I processed while ago for you. And it's just a small amount, palmful. Okay? Palmful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to further process this stuff down into the finest fibers that I can get. When you have an ember, you don't want to take a chance of letting that ember fall through. And plus, an ember is fairly fragile, and you don't want any moisture or whatever to take the life away from your coal or your ember. And so these finer fibers tend to dry out faster. So the finer you can get it, more dry and easier to ignite. The more surface area there is, the easier it tends to ignite. So with this, I'm really going to take my time. The good thing about having 2 layers to your bird's nest, having a really fine layer and then having this coarse tinder bundle underneath, is this stuff will tend to burn up fast because of the surface area. Less surface area burns faster. Excuse me, more surface area burns faster. And then this stuff right here will burn a little bit longer because it's more coarse material. So this stuff will ignite easy, and then this will continue to burn to get my kindling ignited. And this is getting pretty close to what I want it to be. Sorry, I'm sure watching this is like watching paint dry. Not the most exciting thing to see. Hopefully it'll give you a good idea of the difference. Okay, I'll bring this in close. So this is the tinder bundle part, and this is that bird nest area. And what I will do is lay that in the center of the tinder bundle. And with these very fine fibers that I've exposed in the center, that will hold the coal and not let it fall through. And again, as I said, this finer fiber with more surface area is going to dry out faster if there's any moisture in the bark, and it's going to ignite faster because it's going to heat up faster from the coal. And so this is what I would call a decent bird nest. Okay. All right, well, rather than break out the bow drill set, since it's a nice sunny day, I'm just going to use a magnifying lens to create the ember. We've got some charred punk wood here. Shouldn't take long. Just to show you, before I go ahead and ignite that, I've got this bird's nest here, and basically what I've got is a thumb print down in it, which creates like a little indentation where I can put this once I create the ember. And then of course I've got the tinder bundle underneath. Right? The sun as nice as it is right now, it shouldn't take any time to create the ember. Alright, now I'm going to carefully transfer that ember into that little indention I made. You can see how that rests right down in there. And we're ready to go to town with this. Let's see if we can get fire. Now we just turn it over on top of itself. And what you're going to see is with the Tinder Bundle underneath, this is going to have a lot more extended flame. This is going to burn longer for me, in which case it would give me more time to heat up kindling and get all that ignited to get my fire going. Alright, well I thank you for taking the time to tune in for this brief discussion on the difference between a Tinder Bundle and a bird's nest. They're essentially the same thing as far as materials go, it's just in the processing that makes the difference. So I hope this information helps you in some way. I hope to be talking to you again very soon, and until then, as always, take care